right now the airplane may have stabilized or we're at a steady altitude, but everyone still remembers the turbulence. We might still have our seatbelts on. We probably have our eyes closed. And that's a little bit the positioning we're seeing in the derivatives market. So, your headline VIX is normalized a lot. But all those secondary moments that you talk about, your skew, your volatility of vol, those are still pretty high and for good reason. Institutional memory is short and we still remember what happened a few weeks ago.
Are we under-owned tech into Nvidia? Folks, Ed Ludlow, a special tomorrow in the 6 o'clock evening hour with Mr. Wang from Nvidia. Amy Wu Silverman, are we under-owned on tech or is tech over-owned?
Look, from a positioning perspective, it feels like a lot of people have already jumped in the pool. The reason I say that is when you looked at historical positioning in every earnings except this one for Nvidia, it was very, very long, that call skew. People really needed to jump in, so they're holding that right tail in the options market to do so. You don't see that this time around. It's much more even. So, people aren't overly bearish, but they're also not overly bullish. And to me, that not being overly bullish is very, very different than past, I'd say, 6 to 8 quarters, ever since we got that May 2023 blowout number.
Damian, Goldman Sachs making a huge deal about this, that a lot of the, I don't know, I'm going to say as a generalization, hedge funds they're not piled into Nvidia right now.
Well, you know what I mean, Tom, and Amy, you can help me with this. I'm not really so concerned whether or not the skew on Nvidia is platy or leptokurtotic. What I'm really more concerned with is real demand for hedging. It's taken me, for months, I've been talking to people about cost for protection is cheap. You should be hedging here. Equity markets at all-time highs. Nobody would take my call. Nobody would talk to me. What are you hearing now from investors?
Yeah, welcome to my life. You're exactly right. People don't want to hear about it when realize, well, it's hitting 8 and VIX is kind of just floating along. But it usually takes some sort of drawdown in the market to remind people why you hedge in the first place. I will tell you those calls are picking up. And I will tell you that the cost of protection on a historical basis is still relatively inexpensive. Sure, is it more expensive than it was 3 weeks ago? Absolutely. But on a kind of longer tail basis, it's still relatively attractive and you can structure ways to carry that cost.